Thanks for staying with us. We're still discussing Seyi Awolowo and his comments recently doing a reality show. Let me come to you. We're talking about the fact that this is some kind of a feedback to many, especially about Nigerian men, because I know that in universities, a lot of boys probably did stuff like this, where they run one girl, maybe one girl that seems available, and they are now taking turns, and they talk about it, like, you never do your own, me, I not do my own, that kind of, And we've seen this. So when we now see it out with cameras, it's not look as if, oh, he's the culprit. He's the gang leader. The guy that's the gang leader of the whole thing. When they've been doing it for years.
Like I said, our world is getting more and more perverse. And because our world is getting more and more perverse, a society that does not want it to become the norm would clamp down on what they don't want it to become the norm. It's not that we're going to take it out completely. It's never going to end, but we would reduce it. But when a show like this happening in the Nigerian soil, on Nigerian airwaves, have a comment like this floated, and the person is not reprimanded or like evicted or taken out of the show just to say that, oh, we don't support this kind of thing, then we are permitting it inadvertently. We're saying that this thing happened and it's okay in our society for this thing to continue to happen. That's the part I have issues with. I have issues with the fact that the house did not take him out. I have issues with the fact that people did not say anything concerning what he said as something they don't represent, that doesn't represent their mindset or their beliefs. But if we think about it, really...
That's not what the show is about. The show is about you being real as...
If we think about it... If we think about it, everything that the show represents is immoral. It's about you being naked, who did you kiss, who did you do all of that with. So if we are going to say that this is the system here now, then we're not going to question or fight it. But because we understand that people are hearing these things, and it can become a template for someone else, like someone else that did not know or think or has ever heard this thing happening, cannot start thinking about it that, that my 16-year-old boy that is just long neck and not doing anything, maybe I should give him a budget for babes. Maybe I should get him a guest house so that maybe because I'm not giving him freedom. So they will start looking at it as a template to solve what they are perceiving as a problem, which might end up harming people. So it is important that we have this conversation, even if we've heard it 1,000 times in a calmer way in our rooms. We say it out there so that it's now seen as it is wrong. These are other people's children. You're taking advantage of an innocent girl that doesn't know much, and you cannot be planning on that person's...
How do we self-regulate? How does a young man say, you know what, I must know right from wrong? How do we have a few group of men and nobody could say, see, that's nonsense.
Nonsense.
That thing you just said is nonsense. How can you be talking like that? Somebody to challenge that. We don't have that. So what happened to our men? It's like they don't have the confidence to speak up, or they don't even know the right from wrong anymore. See, what I'm seeing...
This is not a censor of men, no. This is a group, the group that are in the house. They are of the same mindset. So we cannot use this as a judge of men. Somewhere else you have this conversation, somebody else will rebuff it, or somebody else will offer a different template. But in this place, they are all in the same birds of a feather.
You remember when Trump was...
Let me pause you for a second, please. I want to take that. But I have a caller. Oliver, thanks for calling. Oh, I'm so sorry for keeping you. I do apologize. Go ahead, Mariam.
When Trump was running for president and there was something that he said that became very popular, he said something almost... No, about grabbing women by their private area. And the wife, in his defense, says, well, it's just locker room talk. It's just boys talk. So this is something... So the reason why you may not have seen the backlash from those around him is because, as I said earlier, this is what boys have always told each other. Men have told boys have heard from men, and what they believe. And many people don't watch that particular show because they say, oh, it's not in keeping with my values and my morals. But I would say one of the good things to come out of shows like this is that it reminds us and tells us exactly where we are. Just as you said, this is feedback. But so now that we've heard this, how do we as a people respond to it? If it shocks us, then that means hopefully there's still some values left, and then we can now use this opportunity to talk about it and educate other children who are growing up. Take care.
Let me take Tokumbo. Thanks for calling, Tokumbo. You're live.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Yes, good morning. Yes. What I want to...
Hello?
Many don't watch it. It's not like it's extremely bad all the way. Usually it's not even bad because they do tasks and some things to make them make money and for them to win things, without even talking about kissing, sex, the adults. Now, the issue about what he said was completely bad. But the fact is, most times he talks like that when he's high, when he's drunk. He had just had a drink, so after the party. You know, people don't look at what happened beforehand. So what I think happened, even though what he said was completely bad, he was drunk. But when he's like a drunk person, he says a lot of things. Maybe things in his mind, we don't know. So people shouldn't judge the show, or like our Chopper said, the show should have said something about it. They can't say it. It's a show which depicts your person and personality. If people like you, they like you like that. If they don't like you like that. But the show itself is not completely bad. It is not even bad. Okay. A lot of times people make comments from videos they see, right, which most times are edited. They just show you a part of it. If you know the beginning to the end, right, you will know that, oh.
All right, so he's a fan of the show, obviously, of the reality show.
Trying to give us context.
Trying to give us that she was probably under the influence of alcohol, I think. I'm not sure what he said. I wasn't sure. But the point is, as we're talking about feedback, the world is full of different kinds of people. They're just like even in visual content we see. There's good content, there's bad content, there's religious, all types of content. There's pornography, there's, and that's what your children are going into the world to see. Yeah. And we must train them to know the kinds of people, the kind of friends to hang out with. Because if you hear this kind of conversation with some boys, you'll be wondering, how do I protect my child from these kind of people, the kind of boys this guy is going to raise? How do I protect my own babies who I'm trying to train to do the right things? How do I protect my daughter or even my own son from being friends with this person's child? These are conversations that we need. This is so, instead of just condemning, because the truth is that these kind of people will continue to exist, whether we like it or not. Yeah. It's just how do we protect ourselves from these kind of people? So you want to jump in?
While you were speaking, the question that came to my mind was, who sets the standard of ideal in a society? Because, in this kind of conversation, some people would hear it and say, right done, well done, yeah. And some other people will hear it and say, this is absolutely bad. So my question really would be, who sets the standard of what is ideal in a society?
Let me take Oliver and I'll come back to you. Good morning, Oliver, you're live.
I'm a first-time caller.
Welcome to the show.
That's right. The man, I think it's White Money or whatever, the BBN now, that made the comment you are discussing now. Now the issue is this. I think White Money is, I've watched a video where in the past they asked him his view about women. And he simply, I think in that interview, he simply said that when it comes to women, he's a descendant of Solomon. That kind of a thing. But now we are all discussing, we are all annoyed at what he's saying, but we have not looked at the consequence. I've had somebody who had that kind of view. But you forget that on the other side of it, there are also girls or ladies who would counter him with their own type of hatred for men, or I don't know whether to call it hatred. Now, there's a man who has given his sons, as it were, that authority to go out. Now, the reply the female gave him was that prostitutes got somebody who had AIDS, and they presented themselves, looked younger, even younger than the son. And the son had, affairs with him based on their father is rich and all that.
I didn't really get Oliver very well. I'm not sure you guys heard in the studio, but maybe our viewers heard him properly.
He was talking about he mentioned a bit about what White Money said. White Money was asked what he thought about women, and he said he's from a descendant of Solomon.
Yeah,
and
that's the part.
Yes, and he also mentioned about the fact that White Money also... See, we cannot... Honestly, it's right we discuss it because it was hot. It was a statement that we need to speak up against, because if we don't, it will become the norm. And we've seen things that we permit. When we permit the wrong things will become our standard.
Okay, let me come to
so when we speak up on what is wrong, we give a few other people barometer. She asked, who determines what is right or what is wrong?
That's what I'm taking notes. That's what I want to go to. This template issue. What template do we give boys on this issue of sexual activities? You know how girls are somewhat raised to hold and preserve themselves till they are married, although many of them never do. But at least when they eventually do, they feel they are mature enough to, fall in love with this person and accept. But what template is given to boys? Because boys don't have a template.
No, they do.
Okay, so now let's understand the template. When do they jump that scale? I don't want to use lose their virginity. When do they lose their virginity? How do they lose it? And who?
The template gets experience.
How do you get the experience?
No. Like the template that we see prevalent is a template of you should get yourself in the ring. Anyhow it is, get yourself in the ring. That's way you will not be a novice.
A gullible girl, right? Who multiple guys are probably committing.
No, they use, and it's a really sad story, but we've discussed this thing years back, very early in the show, and that many men will tell you that they lost it to older women, aunties, house helps, someone older who took advantage of them, and we don't talk about it enough. And it's a major eye-opener, because if your first experience is coming in form of somebody older teaching
violence.
teaching you, quote and unquote, how to be pleasuring them, then you've gotten a template of this is what women want, and I'll be giving it to them everywhere. And maybe your affection for that person doesn't get requited, because obviously that wasn't their intent. The intention was not to have affection. The intention was to use the guy to satisfy themselves. And the guy gets to fall in love and his heart is broken. Then he will not start doing flat-out heartbreak to everyone. So discussing about the way men get indoctrinated into intimacy is an extremely important topic.
The way I understand Morayo's question is, if we're shouting about what Seyi Awolowo has said, what is the other template that we have given to make Seyi Awolowo's statement such a bad thing? If a boy, your teenage son, you have one girl come to visit, second girl comes to visit, third girl comes to visit, and you're hailing your son.
You're not questioning it.
So why should Seyi's comment bother you?
Exactly.
What template did you put down for your son?
You get it.
When your children are growing up, the boy says he's hanging out with friends and there's some, and you see him with the girls and some boys, you hail him, and then you see your daughter with a few boys, you're upset, or you refuse to let her go in. What are you saying?
Let me go on a quick break. Thanks for staying with us. We're going to be taking a few more comments on social media, but first let me come back to you, Maria.
Yeah, so I was saying that unless it will be hypocritical of men especially, I will put this on fathers, I'll put this on men, to find Seyi's statement shocking, because you haven't done anything differently in so many ways. Maybe you have just used a less aggressive or less crude language. Now, we have different ways where we teach girls. We teach them about abstinence, we teach them about virginity, we teach them when they start their period how to take care of themselves. I was saying to talk about earlier, parents or our grandparents used to do it differently, where when a girl starts her period, be careful, because this is when you get pregnant. So when she starts having breasts, there's a way she conducts and holds herself. Right. The boy is just allowed to go into the world and sow your wild oats and just go and attack and conquer, and So I feel, but many times here on this table, we've asked men, what do you tell boys when you sit down with them and you discuss with them? What do you say? What sort of men do you want to see? Do men respect virgin boys? Do they respect virgin men? Does society respect men who come to their marital beds as virgins, or even if not a virgin, as a man who was decent and held himself and only slept with those that he felt a connection with, not just because he could? If we don't respect men like that, then we cannot call out Seyi. Exactly. But the truth is, we need to do better. See, I know you have a call, but I keep referring to this, where there's a way that we raise our boys. But then they get to an age where, whether we like it or not, the group and the pairs are the ones that determine how they see life. They get to an age where their mothers are not, you are not influencing them anymore. Yes. So when they go out into the world amongst their peers, what have we told those peers? What have we encouraged them to do?
So you can raise your child well, but it's not guaranteed that your friend's child or next door's neighbor's child is going to be raised well. Let me take Belinda. Thanks for calling, Belinda.
Hi, good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Wonderful topic again today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I listened to Seyi Awolowo the other day, and it's like you just said, it's a reflection of the society. It just shows us what our society is like today, and it's not just Nigeria, it's universal. Because Miriam just mentioned Donald Trump talking about locker room talk. It's universal. Men think and talk like this when they're together. But then the thing is, the most comforting part is by the time they start having kids of their own, having daughters, they get to change. They don't continue this way. Thank you.
Hopefully. So, I mean, sometimes the voices of people like this drowns the good voices. Yeah, because there are some good men out there who want to raise responsible men.
But they don't
but they don't speak up. We don't hear them as boldly and brazenly as people like this. You know, but some of them are in churches. But even in churches, they just kind of hush. You know, they just talk to boys calmly. But we really need more men. It's only in the last 10 years we had people like Fela Durotoye, people like Larry Olushola come out. They had done programs for men where we've seen strong men come out. But we need more of those. We need more men coming out to chart a new course for young teenage boys. How you treat
The mentors for men.
Yeah, very few.
Rappers.
And
Yes.
Rappers, artists.
you know,
Actors.
Women, drugs, cars.
Those are the mentors.
So that's
for
it.
them.
the
Have
songs,
money, then have more women, then have more money and have more women. Really?
So,
and our songs are also reflecting those same values. And those are the songs that are trending. The songs give you the feeling, and the feeling makes you feel once you have money, the next thing you should do is have more babes or something thereabout. But Mariam asked me a question during the break, and it occurred to me because I have 3 boys and I don't intend to have more kids. And I thought about it that I haven't reflected on how I want my children to address their sexuality. I have not thought about it. If I had a girl, the conversation is straightforward.
Yes.
Abstinence, this is your body, it's a temple, it's precious. But for a boy, for my boys, and my boys are going to be teenagers very soon.
and preteens already.
Yeah, and I haven't even given it a thought
Yeah.
on the kind. I want them to be kind. I'm raising them kind. I'm raising them conscious to take care of people, not to hurt women, not to... All those are covered, but how do they address their sexuality? And how would they address their sexual needs when it comes up? That is a conversation that we must have and start thinking about.
Also, you also don't want your child, you don't want to raise a child who will be seen by his friends as timid.
Yes.
You don't want a boy where, he's still a virgin. He now, that even affects his self-esteem. So we are then consider devil and blues. The devil
He needs to know and be confident enough that I'm making a decision not to. Or if I want to.
These are tough conversations to have. Let me come to you, Toby.
I also have 2 boys. And when you were speaking, I'm like, hey, which kind of love?
Like, where do you start?
Where do I start from? But my children are a bit more younger. And I know that I started conversations like identifying your private parts. These are your private parts. No, nobody touches. And, it starts from then. But then, when they now get to your children's age, what do I do? And that's another thing we need help with, especially as mom of boys, to, we talk about men not being so many, standing up as role models. For mothers like us also, are there people also that have a template of how they've been able to have these conversations with their children?
Let's give you comments.
Have you talked about
Yeah.
consent with your children? So let me give this example that happens in my house. I have a son and daughter. My son has this attitude where he likes to play rough. And I will hear my daughter say, stop it. You will say it 500 times. He will not stop. So for me, I'm like, nah. This behavior is, you don't know when someone says no. So that is a conversation I'm constantly pushing.
Yeah.
I tell him, if you don't respect people's boundaries, police will catch you in the real world when you grow up. You need to understand, even with playing with your sister, when someone says to you no, they mean no. I'm not telling him about sex yet, but I'm hoping that with this, it will translate. Yes, but when we start talking about that conversation, that when somebody says no, it's no.
Yeah.
Don't keep pushing.
Let me take Kalu. Thanks for calling, Kalu.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
I was everyone smoking. Actually, Tokwe has come into the level I want to bring in. The 99% of the younger generation of the mothers and the fathers are playing it wrong. We don't need to blame Seyi Awolowo. We blame the upbringing of the younger generation of the mothers.
Yeah.
I could remember those days. You cannot have an issue and mentioning private parts unnecessarily. I'm above 50 years now. My mother had me at the age of 40-something years. My mother put me in order, even when I did wrong, something like that. He would wake me up at midnight. You can, when we are growing up, you raise an issue of insulting by your private parts and all those things. So I want to really inform the younger generation mothers and fathers that we need to come in area, not only women alone.
Thank you.
Because you protect girls more than men. They don't care about what the young man is talking about.
Mr. Kalu.
Thank you.
Yes.
I want to stay with you for a second. As a man or as a young man, how did you get acquainted with sexual activities?
Come again.
How were you acquainted with sex? What were you introduced to it? What happened? What was your first experience like?
You mean when I'm growing up? When we are growing up?
Yeah.
100%. My mother let us know that if you pregnant a woman outside, you can't come into this house. Our family forbid it. If you eventually touch a woman's breast and we have it, no food for you, no school fees for you. In fact, you'll be spared a part of the family. Okay. So that creation of that fear brought us into a limit to mix up. Although when we are growing up, we have some guys that sneak out to misbehave or something like that. Right. That's why you don't say when we're in secondary school at the late 80s or 80s or 90s, you find out that you can't see somebody be disraging and expose it. Very codex.
Right.
Very, very codex.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Kalu, for sharing your experience with us. I guess we have to wrap up on this. I was going to take a few comments on social media before we run off, but really the point is everybody has condemned what Seyi Awolowo said during the reality show. But on your view, by taking it beyond that, we're seeing it as feedback to society on the gaps in raising our boys. The fact that many of us have raised young men who have not been able to the decency to respect women, to understand that women should be valued to the point where you don't run a train on her. Women are supposed to be valued and cherished and protected. So when we see this, we shouldn't just point at Seyi, but we should point at ourselves and see how we can begin to raise our boys right, correct those who have been giving wrong information, and hopefully we have a better society. I have to run off. You have something that's important?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
He said the queens we raise will be messed up by the area boys we refuse to raise as kings and vice versa. From Gbenga Ademujimi.
That's exactly the point. So you're raising queens, but yet those boys, those kings, if you refuse to raise as kings, would become to area boys who will mess up your queens. That's all we can take on this segment.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.